All right. Thank you all for joining me. So I'm excited to talk with you guys and to hear about your experiences and especially to focus on what we would want to convey to anyone who might be thinking about joining the chaplaincy. And so I actually wanted to kick us off with a quick question. Oh, and let's do introductions also. So I am Captain Sarah Sampis. I'm in the Air Force Chaplain Corps recruiting office. And let's start with you, Chaplain Estrin.
Sure, I'm Chaplain Major Ellie Estrin. I work full-time with the Aleph Institute as their military personnel liaison or the executive assistant to the endorser. So that means I work with Jews in the military. I work with chaplains, and my reserve position is with the 6th Air Refueling Wing, which is at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. And it's always a pleasure to be in uniform. It's great to be here with you, Chaplain Sampis and Chaplain Picard.
And Chaplain Picard.
Hi, I'm Chaplain Levi Picard, stationed at Kadena Air Base, Okinawa, Japan. That's a little island in the middle of nowhere, and it's awesome. And actually moving shortly to Ramstein Air Base in Germany, which also we're really excited about that. I am a active duty chaplain, specifically assigned to the maintenance group, which means that while I don't launch and catch and repair aircraft, I'm intimately involved with everybody there. We have 2,500 airmen that I take care of. I take care of their spiritual needs, their emotional needs, their religious needs, and support them in any way that I can.
Thank you. So I wanted to hear from you guys. What is your favorite thing about the chaplaincy? What would you say is your why you serve?
Chaplain Picard, you're active duty. You go first.
Okay. Oh, that is such a hard question. Can I please have three? Not the thing. Can I have three things I love the most? But if I have to say that the number one, and I'm going to just sneak in a number two there as well. But the number one thing that I love is that I am able to really help people. We chaplains are uniquely suited and possibly one of the only professions in the world, as opposed to any other clergy or anybody or mental health, that we can help people in their darkest moments. We help people in their deepest places, their best places and their worst places. They are the ones, they come to us when they have nowhere else to go to, and we can be there and we can help them. We can help them find the way to discover themselves and move out, utilizing their spirit, utilizing the strength that they have in their lives. It is very, very, very special. And I'm just going to sneak in the second one, whether you guys like it or not. One of the things I love about the Chaplain Corps is the incredible diversity of our mission. Where everybody here, when you join the military, you kind of have a job, and it's great. You can love fixing aircraft, you can love flying aircraft, but after doing that for 3, 4, 5, 15, 20 years, you get tired. Us chaplains, every 2-3 years, we move to another unit. I remember when I was serving with Chaplain Sampis, she was in charge of the mission support group. So she was dealing with security forces and logistics and all those things. And I was involved with Red Horse. These guys and gals are the ones who, they build beer bases in the middle of nowhere. And now I'm with maintenance group. And who knows, I'm moving to Ramstein, and I could get anything. I could be with flyers. I could be with defenders. I could be with anything. And that's just so exciting that I get to really embed myself into the mission and be part of it. And, I think maintain it for the last 3 years. And in my next 3 years, who knows, maybe I'll be thinking about flying or about defending or, I don't know, logistics. So those are probably the two things I love the most about the Chaplain Corps.
Yeah, I love that. I resonate with that so much because I think one of the coolest things, or maybe I shouldn't say coolest, but one of the most impactful and powerful things for me, being on deployment, like you said, being there for people, right? And I had folks with similar faith backgrounds, and I had folks with no faith background. And in particular, one that's coming to mind is I had this young man whose mother passed while he was flying. So he's flying a combat mission landed, found out his mother passed away while he was in the air. And he was not religious, but as the unit chaplain, I was called in to just be there for him. And I was just asking him, like, tell me about your mom. How are your siblings doing? Have you been able to call home? You know, we talked for a little while. And then at the end, he got up to go and I said, hey, you know, I want to be respectful here, but I'm a mom. Would you like a mom hug? And he goes, yes. And just gave me the most giant hug and started crying. And, you know, that is a young man who would never have walked into a church or a synagogue or a mosque or anything to ask for help or to talk about it. But because I am in the uniform, I'm there with him. We don't have the same faith background, but I was able to provide something intangible to him in that moment. And now he's, you know, out doing his job and doing what he needs to do, right? And I love that diversity. And I have to say, I love that diversity with my airmen and then also with us. I love serving with you guys, right? And the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made in the Chaplain Corps. I love that very much. So how about you, Chaplain Estrin?
So I'm coming, of course, from the reserve perspective and give a little bit of an echo of what you're saying, but from a slightly different perspective. One of the things that pulled me into the military was the fact that I was directing Chabad at University of Washington. So it's obviously a student program. One of our students joined the Army, went off to Afghanistan, served as a ranger. And we had been really, really close and we stayed in contact. But when he came back from Afghanistan, he stood there on my porch and gave me what I can only describe as 1,000-yard stare. And, you know, it was heartrending because I knew that there was something I couldn't give him. And here was somebody that we had been so close and I couldn't give him what he needed. And soon after that, the beard thing was, you know, the beard were allowed in the military. And the very day that we saw it, you know, on the news was the day that we spoke to a recruiter, partially because of this, partially because of another one where in terms of another Jewish student of ours who had gone to basic training the day before Pesach, Passover, of course. When I told him, you got to go to a Seder, and he said, you don't understand basic training, and I won't be able to do it. And it was just so frustrating. I knew there must have been some way to be able to do it, but I had no idea. What do you call the base and ask to speak to the chaplain? You know, just it didn't make sense. So it was definitely that drive to be able to assist people, certainly as a minority, and you know, minority, you know, Jews in the U.S. military. There are about 15,000 of us or so out of what is it, 1.5 million or so, something like that. So you know, I knew that there was going to be a need for rabbis, and I just wasn't sure what that need would be. And once I joined, I saw that the need was huge, both for Jews in the military as well as for people who are not Jewish, to meet Jewish rabbis, to get to know us, to understand a little bit more, and for us to present who we are to the world, so to speak, for them to see that, you know, we're not really, you know, aliens from another planet, but we're very, I hope, approachable, and that we can assist them, as both of you said, in some of their darkest hours and some of their most beautiful moments, times when they have difficult questions and things like that, you know, to be able to be there for them in the limited role that I have as a reserve chaplain. It's incredibly meaningful. And you know, and I, like I said before, every day that I'm in uniform, I'm very, very thankful. But I think most of all, really, it does come back to explaining Judaism to people who wouldn't necessarily understand it. And my first experience was with an airman who was actually on my base, and she was keeping Shabbat, and her command, you know, especially as a lower enlisted, they simply had no idea what to do with this girl who worked perfectly well 6 days a week. But on the 7th day, she turned into such a gremlin. It was just like, it was just impossible for them to understand. Why won't you mop the floor? You know, you mop the floor on Friday, you'll do it on Sunday, but you won't do it from Sunday. What's wrong with you? And to sit down with them and explain to them the parameters, and to work with command, the upper command, to explain to lower command how that works. That was extremely gratifying, and that remains one of the most meaningful things I've ever done, her in particular, then afterwards the many other cases that have been able to help somebody keep their Judaism while serving their country.
That is so powerful, I think. And that explains, or it hits on really well, the religious accommodation process, right? And like, what does that look like? And would you guys mind sharing a little bit about what it was like for you to go through a religious accommodation process?
Chaplain Makar, you first?
I was gonna say, Rabbi Esther, you first, because
All right,
it's funny. I'm the first active duty bearded chaplain, but you're the first Air Force chaplain. I saw that on Wikipedia the other day. I was like, oh,
it's on Wikipedia. That's it.
Yeah, you're on Wikipedia. I was like, I didn't make the cut.
It's really frustrating. Yeah, so from my perspective, like I said, I saw online that the Department of Defense allowed beards, and I said, okay, great, let's do it. And I went to the recruiter, and they started pushing things in, and it was taking several months, and I just could not understand why the Pentagon is worried about my facial hair. I could not grasp that idea that, oh yeah, your waiver is sitting on a 2-star's desk. Shouldn't a 2-star have something better to do than worry about, my facial hair? This doesn't get in the way of anything. But I was very, very lucky because I had a recruiting team that really worked with me and really pushed things through, even though at the time I really had no idea how things work. So there was a lot of assistance from the Air Force to be able to make sure that things went through. So at the time, I thought it was just plain bureaucracy. Now it's been streamlined. It's a lot more clear in terms of what needs to be done and what doesn't, and what shouldn't be done. So I'm very, very lucky. It was really easy, and that's true with regards to the other religious accommodations that I needed. In terms of telling them clearly that I need to be able to keep Shabbat during training, that I needed kosher food. I just kept on following up with them. There may have been there was definitely a written request of some type, but somebody really was the person that kind of shaped it into the proper request, the way it needed to be done. But I'm very, very thankful because everything that I asked for was given to me, and I understood how to be flexible in order to be able to make sure that the Air Force realized that I wasn't coming in kind of manipulating the Air Force to my needs, but I was putting in a respectful request, and I was hoping that they would give it to me, and they did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like my experience was it was slightly different, but not terribly different than yours. I was introduced to the U.S. military by becoming friends with Yossi Goldstein, which is the son of the legendary Jewish chaplain Jacob Goldstein. Any Jewish person watching this video knows exactly who Jacob Goldstein is. He's a very large bearded Army colonel chaplain, recently retired. And I was always excited about it.
38 years. 38 years. Yeah. 38 so that's, yeah. This guy served in almost 1/3 of the length of the Jewish chaplaincy.
Yeah, he's a character. And the reason why I joined, and I know you didn't ask me this yet, but I think this is very, very important, is I was an ordained rabbi, but I didn't want to be a pulpit rabbi. I wanted to help people. I happened to have a master's in therapy, in clinical counseling, but I didn't want to be a therapist all day. I wanted to have some rabbinical side of it, and I wanted to also be out there hitting the streets. And as well, I wanted to be a Chabad shliach, a Chabad rabbi, but I wasn't interested in fundraising. I wasn't interested in kind of living that life of where I have to figure out my paycheck to paycheck. And when I discovered the military, I realized I was flabbergasted that I was able to be a rabbi to a community. I was able to be a shliach, where I was able to really help Jewish people and really really help society. For you, Sarah, kind of think of it like a Jewish rabbi meets social worker kind of thing, or a community building effort. And I also wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to help people. I wanted to counsel people, but I didn't want to do all three of them individually, but I wanted to do them together. And the chaplaincy just struck out to me that it's all of these. And that's why I wanted to join. So I was very excited to join, but the beard thing was obviously a major impediment. Once I started exploring it, but it took me several years. I was still finishing up school. I was still I was waiting to get married, and I saw Rabbi Estrin join in. And as soon as Rabbi Estrin joined in, I got in touch with him, and I started the process. And it was for me, it was a very long and difficult process, simply because I like Rabbi Estrin, I had no idea what I was doing, and we were trailblazers, so we didn't know, there was no predicate, there was no really way of doing it. Thank God, since I've joined and all the chaplains followed after me, they really haven't had those challenges. It just doesn't exist anymore. The process is extremely streamlined now. Our rabbis who are getting in now with beards they're not really facing they're not facing a lot of difficulty. There's not a lot of ambiguity from their recruiters and from the chapel recruiting team. There's not ambiguity about what the process is. Everyone knows what to do. So today it's a lot easier. For us, it was definitely difficult. We did it. The Air Force was incredible. Chaplain Philip Spitzer, I called him twice a week for 6 months and said, I'm calling you for my weekly dosage of disappointment. That's what I would call it. Twice a week. And he would say, Chaplain Picard, it's great to hear from you. I'm sorry to disappoint you once again. And I call him. It was every Monday and every Thursday, because I wanted to join. I wanted to serve. I wanted to have the life that I've heard of. And I got to join. I got to go as a reservist initially. Then I joined as active duty a few years later. And it has been an incredible experience. And every time I see Spitzer's name anywhere, I'm always like, that guy. Weekly dosage of disappointment. But yeah, the Air Force was incredible. The Chaplain Corps recruiting team was incredibly helpful and friendly and understanding. And I think something that Rabbi Estrin mentioned before that I wanted to hit on as well, because a lot of people in this, a lot of people watching this, I'm sure, are going to have this question is we have an incredible impact, not just on Jews in the military, but we have an incredible impact on giving our side of the story, our perspective to American military decision makers. The impact is immense, and the way we can help, we help Jews in across the world when the U.S. military has a better understanding of who we are and what we are. We directly inform. We as chaplains, even though yes, I'm a captain, very medium CGO, company grade officer, but I work. Who do I work for? I work for colonels. I work for generals. Those are my people. Those are the people that I interact with. And those are the people that call me up and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I interact? I'm meeting with the Israeli generals to negotiate something. And what do I say to them? How do I interact with them? And I advise them on that. Since I was in the military and there was the Abraham Accords, there were a lot of people in our world that were involved in that. And they talk to us and we help them. We don't influence their decisions, but we help them frame concepts and understand things at a deeper level and understand things from both sides, including our side. And we're able to give them an authentic Torah perspective on how we see the world as well.
That is so powerful. Thank you. I 100% agree. That is one of the coolest parts about being a chaplain, is to be an advisor to leaders. So really quickly, we just have a few minutes left on our Zoom recording here. So I wanted to, something that you said about like the processes, right? Made me think of this, that every recruiting process, every journey into the Air Force Chaplain Corps starts with the endorser, right? Like that is the first step before anything else can happen. And so as a recruiter now, a lot of times I get this question of like, how do I find an endorser? How do I get endorsed? And so Chaplain Estrin, I was hoping you might speak to that just for a few minutes before we sign off.
Sure. So the Aleph Institute is a Department of Defense recognized chaplain endorser. So we do endorse chaplains, and of course, both Chaplain Picard and myself are endorsed by the Aleph Institute. And the endorser himself is a person who signs off on the endorsing document. Our endorser is a retired colonel, Chaplain Colonel retired Sandy Dresden, who spent 26 years as an active duty chaplain throughout Vietnam and ended just at the end of the Cold War. He was actually there at the fall of the Berlin Wall. And our process, the way we work is we interview, I'll usually do an interview of the chaplain candidate, or not candidate, but the potential chaplain. And Rabbi Dresden will also do an interview. We have a questionnaire that we send out, which just to get a little bit of a sense of who the person is on paper, because we deal with a lot of people over time. So oftentimes we forget who it is. So we'd like to see on paper what we're talking about. And then when we're sufficiently sure that this person has passed all the qualifications that I'm sure Chaplain Sampos can provide with regards to education, with regards to physical fitness, with regards to moral fitness. And moral fitness we mean in terms of the ability to be able to say that, no, I do not have an arrest on my record. I've not gone bankrupt or anything like that. Once we've gone through that and we feel that this person would be a good fit for the military at large, and specifically, of course, the Air Force, we fill out what's called a DD 2088, which is the official form saying that we endorse this chaplain. And we'll walk through the chaplain through the entire process to make sure that they've got everything that they need, both in terms of they understand what's coming, they know what to expect at any particular stage. At the same time, when things get held up, oftentimes we'll speak to the recruiters and try to work out some of the hitches, because sometimes things like that happen because the transcripts are in Hebrew or something like that. So we'll work those things out. And then afterwards, we support the chaplains through, we send supplies, we send even stipends for the holidays to the active duty chaplains. And we try to make sure that they have all the support that they need in order to be able to feel that they weren't just thrown to the wolves, so to speak, but they know that they've got a warm home here in the United States, backing them up, making sure they've got everything that they need. And of course, the other side of things is that if the chaplain, God forbid, is not, shall we say, up to snuff, because of inappropriate behavior of one type or another, then we do have the ability to be able to pull the endorsement, which would end their chaplaincy career if necessary. That's something that, thank God, we haven't needed to do in quite a long time. And I hope that we will only get quality chaplains aboard. And that's really what we're trying. We're trying to find people that really can understand the military, can stick to their religious standards while being able to be flexible within the unique circumstances of the military, who know how to work with people who are not necessarily their own, so to speak, who know how to speak the language, to learn the military language, all those different elements. All of us, of course, when you think of military, you think of rah-rah and, macho and all that kind of thing. And I certainly do not consider myself to be that. But as soon as I met chaplains, as soon as I met the chaplains, both at the annual chaplain conference that we have, as well as the chaplains on my first base, Joint Base Lewis McChord, I realized that these are people that I really would enjoy working with. These are people that I really respect. And that was really that connection. But the endorsing agency is really this original part of the process. We try to, kind of help you through this original part of the process. We pick the people that we feel would fit the role, and we try to work them through as they go through their career.
Thank you.
I want to definitely second on that for a second, that the Olive Institute has been incredible. Living here, I live on a little island in Okinawa, Japan. I always tell people, you're going to go to Google Maps and you need to go two times in to be able to even find our little island. And the Olive Institute has been a lifesaver. They send us every single Yom Tov and holiday, well in advance. They send us matzahs, they send us menorahs, they send us every single thing we need. I'm checking the mail every single day because they're supposed to be sending us field grade cheesecake for Shavuot, and and just the supplies. I mean, it's so easy. Just pick up the phone to Rabbi Esther and say, "Hey, I need a box of sitters or of yarmulkes," and 2 weeks later, well, for me, if you're in the U.S., it takes you 2 days. For me, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. It depends on the month. But I'll receive the package, and it's been really, the Olive Institute has been fantastic, and a real pleasure to work with. And Rabbi Esther, don't want to throw you under the bus right here, but you've made the experience really pleasant.
Thank you, guys. So just in the interest of time, I wanted to let anyone who's watching, if you want more information, it's easy to Google us. The Air Force Chaplain Corps will take you to a page that'll give you a number to my office. It also lists some of the requirements on there. But of course, like I said, the first requirement is finding an endorser. So we have the Aleph Institute, we have other endorsers. Feel free to reach out and ask questions anytime. And gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this with me. It is a pleasure to see you guys. I'm so excited to see you and be on this call with you. Thank you.
Truly a pleasure. And looking forward to meeting, God willing, many, many more military chaplains, and especially Go Blue. I'll bring them over to the Air Force.
Yeah, let me touch on that for a second. First of all, if you're an ogre, definitely go to the Army. That's fine. But if you are, somebody who likes to be, who is a professional, who's somebody who wants to be true military, come to the blue side. Especially, I mean, my daughter wakes up every single morning, has an F-15 flying over her house twice a day. Like no one can beat that. But also, like, hey, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Chaplain Corps is amazing. Everything part of it, it has been a blessing. It has been the best. These years they've been challenging years. They've been hard years, but they've been the best years of my life. I cannot be happier. And this is not something I'm just saying on a recruiting call, but this is, if you ask Chaplain Sampras and Chaplain Esther, and I say this all the time, I love the Chaplain Corps. I love the military. I love the Air Force. We really, and we need chaplains. We are in desperate need of good, solid Jewish chaplains. So if you're looking for a really good life, a hard-working life that's going to make you happy, fulfilled, and not going to have to think about your finances, join the Chaplain Corps. We need you, and I know that was such a pitch, but we do.
Love it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great to see you.